video is over textbook pages 245 through 247 and workbook pages 297 through 298. We're going to start with problem number 10. Which pair of variables would you expect to have a negative association? A, the amount of money you make in a week and the number of hours you work during the week. When we talk about that, we would think that the more hours you work, the more money you make. And so both of those would be increasing values. The more hours you work, the more money you make. So that would be a positive association. For letter B, a person's height and the number of pets he or she owns. That does not matter. There is no law that says you have to be a certain height in order to own pets. Those are two irrelevant pieces of information. And so that one would be a no association. For letter C, the speed at which a person drives to work and the time it takes her to get to work. So the faster you drive, the less time it takes. As one goes up, driving fast, the other goes down, less time. That would be a negative association. So that's going to be our correct answer. But let's go ahead and talk about letter D. D, the number of friends you have and the number of birthday parties you attend. It can be assumed that the more friends you have, if you have a lot of friends, then you go to a lot of parties. Since both of them are increasing, that would be a positive association. So C is our correct answer. For the second part of the equation, it says Brian chose B as the correct answer. Why is choice B incorrect? So we can already talked about this. B is incorrect because that is a no association. There is no relationship between height and number of pets owned. It is random. On the next page, we have problem number 1. Students at Central Middle School decided to gather survey data from their classmates on a number of different questions. Which pair of variables from the survey would be most likely to have no association with one another? Remember, no association means it's going to be random. So, looking at letter A, the number of hours spent studying per week and grade point average. Well, if we look, the more hours you study, we can assume that your grades are going to go up. Since both go up, that is a positive association. For letter B, height in inches and age in months. If your height is increasing, if you are growing, that typically means that you are getting older, meaning your age is going up as well. Typically, the older you are, the taller you are. And so B is also a positive association. Letter C, the number of books owned and the number of visits to the doctor's office in 1 year. This one is our no association because those two variables don't go together. It's random. They don't matter. You can have 1,000,000 books and never go to the doctor, or you could have no books and go to the doctor a ton of times. Those two things don't go together, so C is our no association. Just to look at letter D, we could say that as height increases, weight also increases. Typically, the taller you are, the more you weigh. That's why adults weigh more than children, because we're taller, we're bigger. As height increases, so does weight. That would also be a positive association. For number 2, the scatter plot below represents 2011 data comparing the average teacher salary and average student to teacher ratios for a number of school districts in the state of Vermont. So we're going to use that scatter plot to answer numbers A through E. Letter A, an outlier exists at the point representing salary of approximately $62,000. So salaries down here across the bottom, and 62 would be about right there next to 63, and there is an outlier there at 62,000, and so that statement is true. For letter B, there is a negative linear association between average salaries and average student to teacher ratios. So negative means that the graph is going down. Looking at that negative line that I've drawn, I can see that those points are not around that, so that statement is false. Letter C, the smallest school district has an average student to teacher ratio of approximately 8.6. So again, the smallest school district, the smallest one would be this point down here, which is about 7.6, not 8.6. So that statement is also false. Letter D, there is a positive linear association between salaries and average student to teacher ratios. So that would be if I drew a line going from the bottom to the top. Again, the points are not clustered around that line, so that statement is false. And the last problem, it says the school district with an average salary of 48,000, so that's going to be about right here, 48,000, and a student to teacher ratio of 13, so that would be about right here, 13 is about there. So we're looking at that point, is an outlier compared to other districts paying less than 48,000. That statement is true. That point is separated from the rest of the group. On the next page, we have problem number 3. Each scatter plot below can be described by one of the following types of association. So for each type, we're going to start with this first one. Our graph is going in a downward trend. Downward would be negative, and they are all clustered around those sets of points, those lines. And so that would be a negative linear association. For the second one, I can draw a line through the middle of those points, and that graph is going up. So that would be a positive linear association. Our points here in the second graph are all random. It does not go up, it does not go down. So that would be a no association, or none. In the last graph, it goes up and then it goes down. So it's not a straight line, it is non-linear. Moving on to the workbook page. We have the example problem, which it says the scatter plot represents data comparing the incomes of a company's employees and the number of years of experience they have. What trends do you notice? So number 1, does the data seem to have a linear or non-linear association? So linear means that we can draw a line through the middle of the points, and we can. So this would be linear because most of the points are in the pattern of a straight line. And we know that linear means straight line. For number 2, we're looking at the same example scatter plot, and the question asks, are there any points that lie outside the general trend of the data and might be considered an outlier? This point here at about 6 and 80 is considered an outlier because it's separate from the group. So we're going to say yes, the point at 6 and 80 is considered an outlier. Because it is separate from the group. For number 3, we're still using the same scatter plot, and it says who would you expect to have a higher income? Someone with 4 years of experience or 8 years? So with 4 years of experience, that would put you about right here, and with someone with 8 years of experience, that would put you about right here. So someone with 8 years of experience would have a higher income because the more years you work, the more money you make. Number 4, would the gallons of gas a car uses and the distance it travels have a positive or negative association? Explain. So if we're talking about gallons of gas that the car uses, so as more gallons are used, so we're using the gas, we would end up having less distance. It means we're moving. It means we have less to go. We've gone farther. Or if you want to think about it in this way, if you're using gas, that means your gas tank is going down, and that means that we're driving long distances. If we're using gas, it means that we're driving farther. Either way, one is increasing, one is decreasing, meaning that is a negative association. Negative association is when one variable increases and the other decreases. Number 5, it gives us a scatter plot and it asks us to describe any trend that you see. Well, first of all, we can say that that is a linear scatter plot because there is a almost straight line within the pattern. We can say it is a negative association because that line that we drew is going in a downward trend. And we can also say that there are no outliers. There are no points that are separate from the rest of the group. Number 6, what type of association does there appear to be between the value of the car and the age of the car? Explain. Well, because our points are going in a downward trend, we would say there is a negative association. Because, and we're going to use our common sense, the older the car, the less it is worth. New cars are worth a lot of money. Old cars are worth not a lot of money.